going back to the book Ancient America and Notes on American Archaeology. All right. Turn to page 243. I've been talking about ancient structures, ancient roads here. I'm going to focus on that in this video real quick. All right. Okay. The Great Peruvian Roads. Nothing in ancient Peru was more remarkable than the public roads. No ancient people has left traces of works more astonishing than these. So vast was their extent, and so great the skill and labor required to construct them. One of these roads ran along the mountains through the whole length of the empire, from Quito to Chile. Another starting from this at Cusco, went down to the coast and extended northward to the equator. These roads were built on beds or deep understructures of masonry. The width of the roadways varied from 20 to 25 feet, and they were made level and smooth by paving, and in some places by a sort of macadamizing with pulverizing stone mixed with lime and bituminous cements. This cement was used in all masonry. On each side of the roadway was a very strong wall, more than a fathom in thickness. These roads went over marshes. Rivers, and great chasms of the Sierras, through rocky precipices and mountainsides. Just like I said, the great road passing along the mountains was a marvelous work. In many places, its way was cut through rock for leagues. Okay? In many places, its way was cut through rocks for leagues. Great ravines were filled up with solid masonry. Rivers were crossed by means of a curious kind of suspension bridges. And no obstructions was encountered which the builders did not overcome. The builders of our Pacific Railroad, with their superior engineering skill and mechanical appliances, I question that, might reasonably shrink from the cost and the difficulties of such a work as this. So the work they did was difficult, time-consuming, in building great civilizations here in America, extending from 1 degree north of Quito to Cusco, and from Cusco to Chile. It was quite as long as 2 Pacific railroads, and this wild route among the mountains was far more difficult. Sarmiento, describing it, said, It seemed to me that if the Emperor Charles V, he was a Negro of the Holy Roman Empire and King of Spain. He was a Negro of the Holy Roman Empire and King of Austria and Spain. This is a Spaniard Negro. Okay, so should see fit to order construction of another road like that which leads to Quito to Cusco, or that which from Cusco goes towards Chile. I certainly think he will not be able to make it with all his power. Humboldt examined some of the remains of this road and described as follows a portion of it seen in the pass of the Andes between Mansa. It's seen it in a pass of the Andes between Mansa Musa, and Mansa Abubakari, Laksa. Our eyes rested continually on superb remains of a paved road of the Incas. The roadway, paved with well-cut dark porphyric stone, was 20 feet wide and rested on deep foundations. This road was marvelous. None of the Roman roads I have seen in Italy, in the south of France, or in Spain appeared to be more imposing than this work of the ancient Peruvians. He saw remains of several other shorter roads which were built in the same way, some of them between Laxa and the river Amazon. Among these roads at equal distances were edifices, a kind of caravanserais built of hewn stone for the accommodation of travelers. These great works were described by every Spanish writer of Peru, Heru, and in some accounts of them we find suggestions in regard to their history. They are called roads of the Incas, but they were probably much older than the time of these rulers. The mountain road running towards Quito was much older than the Inca Huayna Capac, my pronunciation, to whom it had sometimes been attributed. It is stated that when he started by this route to invade the Quitus, the road was so bad that he found great difficulties in passage. It was then an old road, much out of repair, and he immediately ordered the necessary reconstruction, Gomara says. Huayna Capac restored, enlarged, and completed these roads, but he did not build them, as some pretend. These great artificial highways were broken up and made uses at the time of the conquest and the subsequent barbarous rule of the Spaniards, the Negro Spaniards, allowed them to go to decay. Now only broken remains of them exist to show former character. I'm going to stop there, man. Remember I showed you a picture of Hernando de Soto. He was a Negro, man. The picture that you see there, they usually whiten him up, but there's a picture of him in the book, I think, The History of Florida, that shows an actual picture of him as being a Negro. So there's very different Negroes coming here to the Americas. There was already people here. You had people coming in from Africa, from Europe, and from Asia here. Remember past video I made, I showed you these black people in the Philippines with boats. So, and I think I had mentioned before that the original people of China were melanated Negro people. So those original Asians, if anyone came through this Bering Strait, those original Asians that came here, because white folks didn't exist. So later on they came and they mixed in with those Aboriginal blacks who looked like those Khoisan people, mixed in with them heavily to bleach out their black sort of brown and yellow skin to come pale looking. Those people are not indigenous to this land. You just look at a lot of Mexicans, they look Chinese. Those people came later on, and pale Chinese people came much later on. See, the problem with the Pan-Africans and many of these modern day mainstream historians, that they just want to lump all so-called black people in one group. Now I'm telling you various different black people, but you have various different black people globally around the world fighting amongst each other. And like I showed you a picture before, Hernando de Soto was a Negro. So that was a Negro European coming in to invade the Negro empires here in America. So those are two different groups of black people. I talked about the roads, the stone roads, and how they find a way to carve into mountains or to blow up and then cut into mountains and create different caves. They smelted iron, like I said. Our people had a high form technology. To sit up there and continue to say this mess, that we descendants of West Africans, is silly. That is really silly. Because you had your black empires globally. But unfortunately, we've been misplaced in so many different areas. And then you had these mixed breeds, these people who are amalgamated or mixed with these white folks or these paler Asians, assume their identities of the indigenous blacks in North Africa, the indigenous blacks in Asia, the indigenous blacks in Europe, and indigenous black people in the Americas. They stole and assumed their identities. They learned some of the culture, but they obviously do not have the rhythm or the heart of the people of the culture. But right there, I just showed you what I talked about, the different roadways that our people built, and then you heard the name Charles V. All right, the Negro from the Eastern Roman Empire, or he became king of Spain. That was a Negro European. And remember, the Aztecs had said that they're not from this land; they came from somewhere else. So you had your Negro empires here, and you had other Negro empires coming in to this land because they heard about the greatness of the land and they want to build on top of it, or built their structures over here in a land that was already predated. Civilization already predated them coming over here or building here. And then you know where I read you what it says Mansai. You find names like Mandingo all over the place, man. You got Heru or Peru, Heru. These names are so obvious, man. It's just right in your face. You're not descendant of African slaves. Stop saying that mess, man. Stop listening to Umar. Stop listening to Tariq. and I listened to him, but I knew some of the stuff he was kicking BS, and some of the stuff he was saying BS, but I sometimes just gave him a pass because, okay, you can get viable information from anyone, but you keep attacking. You keep attacking certain Aboriginal blacks, and then you start attacking Dan Cattle, which is not cool, man. I don't find that cool. I don't I don't necessarily agree with everything, but I'm not going to sit there and just attack the brother and dog him out. And I hear sometimes Clyde Winters trashing, man. He needs to stop that, man. He goes around trashing Dan Calloway. It seems like a lot of them doing this because of jealousy, man. And it's really bothersome that you're senior and you're attacking the brother, man. Why are you attacking the brother? If you have some issues, you should contact him and talk to him, but you don't attack him like you do. That's to me that doesn't smell right. We don't need to attack each other like that. But the problem that I had with what Tariq did with the Aboriginal black, one minute he's Aboriginal, next now he's African. He doesn't know what he is because he don't know what the hell he's talking about. This is why I tell you, brothers and sisters, do your research. I don't know everything. But I sure know this, that we're not African. Because many Africans came over here to try to conquer the Aboriginal black people here. Alright, brothers and sisters, this is Brother G World 7_D, man. Continue to do your research, continue to find your information, continue to grow, continue to build that knowledge, continue to love yourself, and learn your true history. Learn the fact that you had black Europeans come over here, black people, what you call Asiatic, and you had your Aboriginal black people here, you had black people coming from various parts of Africa over here. So, you had that intermixing happening. You also need to understand that the original so-called Asians were melanated people, so-called Negro people, black people. They're still there in the Philippines. They're still there in the Philippines. Images of Angkor Wat, like I mentioned so many times, Angkor Thom over there in Cambodia. Images of Vietnam, you see the Negro people over there, all through Asia. China. So our history goes beyond Kuta Kinte, Alice Haley's little fairy tale. We have a rich history. And do not listen to these mainstream Negroes because they continue to pimp and hustle our people. I'm not a mainstream Negro, okay? But I've been around them too much all my life. And I really can't stand them. I know how these Negroes get down. I can't stand them. And they give out a lot of misinformation. We are not African. We are, some of us are more mixed in with various other blacks, but some of us are not as much. I talked about black slave owners before in Louisiana, in South Carolina, hell, even in Virginia. And it wasn't just their purchasing their wife out of slavery. They actually they made a profit. Some of them made a profit off of some of the black people they owned. So you did have black people making a profit off of other black people. You did have that. Don't let them Negroes just tell you they just bought their wives and all that stuff. They made a profit. Some of them did make a profit off of other black people. Don't get it twisted. There's some things when you start studying your history you're not going to like. Yes, certain individuals were black, but they weren't our black, and they were very demonic and devilish, man. This is something that we're going to have to understand and come to the realization. Some of our people, or some of these people weren't down with us. That's why a lot of our people are offended when you call them, quote, African, when they're aboriginal to this land. But when you start studying the history more, you will see why brothers and sisters feel that way. All right, brothers and sisters, this is Brother G World 7 _ D.